Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Red Path. It is Dara and Jamie here with you today, and we are going to be talking about
Yes.
faction focused world leaders. So grab yourselves a brew and let's dive in. Back to the video. Dara and Jamie have united once more for a very special day. It is the hour, people. Our faction focus preview has gone up on Warhammer community, and I think it's safe to say that an awful lot of people, ourselves included, are very, very excited about the rules that GW have shown for our beloved army today. Jamie, how are you feeling about all this new
Man,
stuff?
I'm pretty hyped. I'm pretty hyped. Not gonna lie. I set my alarm super early for me today. Got about 4.5 hours sleep. Woke up at 9 o'clock and blearily was on my phone trying to read in. I'm old, so I had to zoom in and stuff. And I'm reading through and I'm like, okay, this is cool. This is cool. Oh shit, this is cool. And like, yeah, the hype was building. So then I jumped in Discord and, of course, it's like ping, ping, ping. And like rumors is just, or the rumors channel's just blown up. And I was really happy to see that it was almost, if not completely positive in the Discord. However, I did make the mistake briefly a little while ago of checking Facebook and stuff, and not everyone is as hyped as us. Hopefully, we're going to change some minds with this video because I think this is genuinely, so far, without all the additional context, this is genuinely strong. What about you?
Yeah, for sure. I very much agree. I think it's a big step in the right direction in general. Like, not everything has necessarily gotten stronger, which I like. It
Mhm.
just feels like things have gotten better, more refined. And I think the identity of the army is quite nice with where it's going to be going as well. Certain things I really, really like in the preview. Like, I really like how our army mechanic is going to work now. But yeah, overall, I think super positive. Really excited to explore some of the new stuff, some of the new ideas that we've got going in. And also just super stoked that we kept Blood Surge on Berserkers because
Yeah,
Loki, that thing is just so much fun to use.
yeah,
So yeah, but we'll get into that. So we're going to talk through basically all the different aspects of the preview article today as they come up. So we're essentially going to work through this piece by piece. So Jamie's going to start us off, right? And we're going to talk about our army ability, which is the Blessings of Khorne. Jamie.
yeah. So this is basically the replacement for the blood tithe. We're going to get this, assuming we have chosen world eaters, which, of course, goes without saying. So basically, if your army faction is world eaters at the start of the battle round, you make a blessings of corn roll. So you're going to roll 8 dice, 8d6, and different combinations of those doubles and triples and so on will unlock the ability to purchase our actual blessings, like our tithes, basically, is what it is. Um, so the blessings themselves, we get +2 to move for any double, a 6 up feel no pain, or +1 to a feel no pain for any double. For a double 3, we get sustained hits, which is exploding criticals. So that's typically a 6 to hit, but there may be ways to modify that. We don't fully know yet. If you get a double 4 or any triple, you get total carnage, which is fight on death on a 4+, and that's on a model by model basis. Yeah, well, we'll go into depth here in a sec. On a double 5, again, or any triple, you get lethal hits, which is criticals auto wound, as far as I'm aware, anyway.
Yeah, it is that one. Yeah.
Yeah, and then unbridled bloodlust, double 6 or triple 4, you can advance and charge. Now, there is an additional one for Angron specifically, which I will touch on. I know we're going to talk about him more. Reborn in Blood. If it's a triple 6, you can use this, and he's no longer destroyed. He just comes back with 4 wounds. But we'll talk on that more when we talk on him. So the mechanic itself, we haven't done the full math yet because there's a lot to be done here. We're going to be putting the Discord nerds to work, I think. Um, but yeah, basically the overall, my first impression, first glance, a little bit of math hammer here and there. You're guaranteed a double. On 8 dice, you have to get a double. There's no way to not get a double. 99% or something, you're going to get two doubles, but it's possible you'll get a triple and then five in individual dice results. So you're going to get a double or a triple or probably two doubles. And then the more specific they are, if it's like a double three or a triple, what have you, the numbers become less certain. But you can guarantee at the start of the battle round. Do you happen to know if we're going first or second when we would make this? I think we'll know because it's the start of the
You
battle
would
round.
know it's the start of the
Yeah,
battle round, yeah. So it
assuming
would have
that
been
hasn't
decided
changed.
already. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, assuming that order doesn't change, which it shouldn't do. So if you're going first, you're probably going to be getting +2 to move, probably. And there is a reasonable chance, I think we're sitting at about 60% right now, but that's obviously going to change, of getting advance and charge and +2 to move. Turn one could be incredible with a lot of our units. Let's just throw that out there right now. And if you're going second, you're probably going to want the Feel No Pain. We don't know about pre-game moves and stuff like that, but the Feel No Pain as a defensive posture is just super good, especially on 2 wound, 3 wound models. Defensive stuff is changing a bit. We don't know exactly how obscuring and all that is going to work, but just any defense is really welcome. And it does help the way our army plays right now with our 9th edition codex. You have to sacrifice quite a bit of your army to get that, and then sometimes it doesn't pay off. Here, you're probably just going to have it if you need it. A lot of these buffs I feel are good. Having exploding sixes on a double three, that's like a harder one to get, but when you need it, and with the ability to do rerolls from your berserkers, you've got a decent chance. I don't know. I think overall it's really good, and there is a little bit of a jankiness, even though the article says no more shenanigans. It's just blunt force trauma. If I stack 6 squads of berserkers all towing my home objective, I've got 6 rerolls in the first battle round. So because it doesn't specify they have to be separate objectives.
That
Um,
feels like it's going to be
yeah,
FAQ'd, but yeah,
it'll
yeah.
probably be FAQ'd, or there's an additional rule we just haven't seen yet, or something like that.
Yeah,
But with the information we've got, of course, this is the red pub, man. We're always trying to find the stupidest shit we can do with these rules.
for
So,
sure.
roll 8
We're
dice.
going to
You've
get
got,
to that kind of bullshit when we get to Angron, but yeah.
oh my god, yeah.
Yeah.
8 dice. You potentially got 5 or 6 re-rolls if possible. You're kind of cherry picking. You're trying to get what exactly you want, and you've got good odds of getting something. We've basically got an army-wide feel no pain and +2 move. Just if we want them. I don't know, man. I prefer this over Blood Tide. I really do. What about you?
Yeah, I think I do prefer it over Blood Tide for a couple of reasons. So typically the way I see it is that like myself included, when people kind of read these previews, they look at it from the lens of like what has gotten worse rather than necessarily has this gotten better. So a lot of people I think are reacting to this saying like, oh, it's not as good because it's random.
Mm-hmm.
And with the Blood Tide, it was more controlled, which isn't really necessarily true, I don't think. Like Blood Tide is controlled in the sense that like, yeah, sure, when my guys and your guys die, then we get the buffs that we want or whatever. Um, However, it's like super limited in the fact that like you're not going to have anything in turn one typically, and turn two you're going to have a limited selection of things that you can get unless you have an Invocatus rush turn one or something like that. This is very different in the sense that like even if you're going second, you'll be able to throw up buffs at the start of the battle round regardless. And like you say, you can pop a survivability buff, which is super super strong if you're going to be alpha struck or anything like that. You can also kind of like immediately have 2 buffs at the very start of the game. Like if you're going first, like we say, advance and charge +2 move, really strong combination to have, especially if you're running Angron. So like that's just something that we would never have had before, in our previous iteration of the Blood Tithe, which was a fine mechanic, but at least
Yeah.
this way I don't need my own guys to die for things to pop off. Also,
Yes.
I feel like, the Berserker's banner is probably not the only way that we're going to have to manipulate the dice. I can
Yeah.
see there being maybe a stratagem or an enhancement or
Or
something like that.
trade. It's like, yeah.
Presumably, yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, there's going to be potentially other ways of messing around with it, but to me, it feels like an extremely strong mechanic, and there's a lot of like powerful combinations in there as well. Like the movement ones are the ones that are really jumping out to me. Is very strong. I do find it interesting that they allude to the army having other ways to get feel no pains and them improving to a 5+.
Yes.
Really want to know what that's all about. Berserker Surgeon, maybe. I don't know, fingers crossed, but kind of feeling that, you know? I think we can infer from this as well that we can expect Invocatus and the Juggerlord's aura of +2 movement to change. I
Yes.
don't think that we're going to live in a world where we can get movement 10 berserkers. However, one thing that really jumped out to me, and shout out to Tibbles if you're watching, Land Raiders with that +2 move, rocking up the board
Ooh.
really fast, and then guys jumping out afterwards. It actually just makes that threat range even bigger, which is crazy good. Like, crazy, crazy good. It's the units with the move boost that you just didn't think about initially, right? Like, the
Hmm.
Land Raider to me, straight away was like, yo, that's crazy. Like, it gives Terminators, so like, what's that? It'll move 14. They'll hop
Yeah.
out 3, so that's 17. And then they'll be able to charge 2d6 +1 with Angron's buff if he's around, or whatever way you have it. Which is just, that's crazy kind of threat range in
Yeah.
potentially turn one. So
Ooh.
I'm here for that, if you want to do that kind of rush. And who knows what our stratagems may have in store. But like, obviously everyone immediately thinks of like the obvious units like 8-ban, Angron, blah blah blah. But it's like, yeah, but what about like rhinos and how do they benefit from it, or spawn, or jackals? I know Mark in Discord is really excited about jackals fighting on death, which is like
Yeah.
stupid good. You've got a unit of 20 of them, like 10 of them are going to fight on death and probably make absolute paste of your enemy. The fight on death army wide 4 plus is like really strong, but like
Well, it's an army-wide mass interrupt, basically.
pretty
If
much,
you pull
yeah,
it
pretty
off,
much.
yeah,
It's like,
like
oh, suddenly my
50%.
army is like creations of bile in the turn that it needs to be creations of bile. And I
Yes.
think there's a lot of interesting nuance that isn't necessarily apparent, where it's like, if I go first or if my opponent goes first, it actually really changes how you're going to use these buffs,
Hmm.
which I really like as like a thing to master, having to get
Yeah.
used to that. And yeah, so overall, I think super, super stoked to see how this all shakes out, because I really like what I'm seeing here.
Yeah. Well, let's move on. Talk to us about Berserkers. Talk to us
Yes.
about the Berserker data sheet, and what are your thoughts there?
Cool. So the Berserker data sheet has changed quite a bit,
Mm.
somewhat in line with expectations, I think. I know a lot of us were expecting the damage threshold to go down for Berserkers based on everything else, like Power Swords being AP2 was fair enough to infer that we were going to kind of drop down to AP1 and stuff. And some of that has definitely happened. So let's take a look at the Berserker datasheet here. So what we have is they're still moving 6, they're still tough 4, still 3 up, 2 wounds. Their leadership is 6 plus, which is pretty good. And their OC is 2, which is also quite good. So they have their bolt pistol, which is the same as before, the plasma pistol, which is the same as before. That's all fine. Then we have the Berserker Chainblade, which is 4 attacks per guy, hitting on 3s, strength 5, AP1, damage 1. So straight away, that's 1 less attack, 1 less strength, and 1 less AP compared to what we're used to now fighting on the charge. And then the Coordinate Eviscerator is 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, strength 8, AP2, damage 2. So that's 2 less AP, 1 less strength, and 2 less attacks altogether. So that's a fairly significant drop down in damage output. I don't think it's like massively surprising. I think the thing that struck me is the attack number going down. That was quite surprising to me. Would you agree with that one?
Yeah. Yes, it's surprising, but not shocking. I don't really know how to say it. Like when they said lethality is going down, we haven't seen that very consistently. Like there has been some lethality for
Yeah,
other armies gone down,
lethality
but
feels like more specialized or focused or something. I don't
yes.
know.
Um,
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Where I'm like, it's not like shocking, but I'm like, it would have been nice if that didn't happen. But also, it's
yeah.
fine. I don't know. It doesn't feel that bad. Like I think a lot of the time, the way that I'm running them anyway, berserkers were overkilling things like crazy. So
For
I'm
me,
not really too
it's
fussed.
if we just run 5 with chain blades, let's say we don't take the eviscerate for easy math, we're just 20 attacks a squad now. I mean, we've gone what in 8th edition for like 40 attacks, and
Yeah,
we've kind of steadily declined in number of attacks. I just the key for me is for berserkers to be something we actually want to throw forward and fight, they have to be pointed correctly. They have to be relative to the rest of the army and the rest of the game intent cheap. They have to be cheap because they've got no ranged output. Um, they're not killing as many things now.
I
Like
think they're a lot
the
more specialized into killing the things that like they should be good at killing, and not being able to necessarily walk through tanks as such.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
but like you can Yeah, obviously we don't want to get bogged down on this. It's just, yeah, they're a lot less lethal now. They have a bit more utility as objective holders, just because of, I'm sure, what you're going to talk about in a second. Um, yeah, I'm not upset by this. It
Yeah.
obviously, we all want our berserkers to just lawn mow through armies, but we also have to be realistic. We're going to have other assets now that we haven't seen, right?
Indeed, yeah. I think it's interesting. I definitely don't think they're a bad unit, mainly
No.
because they've retained Blood Surge, which I think is one of the most broken rules in ninth edition currently, and it stayed almost exactly the same. Though you did pick out one interesting change. Do you want to tell us about that change to the Blood Surge tier?
Yeah, sure. So basically, the only thing I can see that's different, is one of the limitations is they can now blood surge whilst they're in engagement range, which doesn't seem like a huge thing because, pistols, yeah, typically it's bolt pistol type things. However, if you are engaged with an enemy tank, for instance, the tactic would be, you just consolidate into them and just base them with one model, and then try and string out elsewhere to be a few inches away from another tank. So when they shoot you, because as far as we know, generally vehicles are going to still be locked into shooting into combat, you'll pull the models that are closest to the tank you're engaged with, and then blood surge into the other tank. And if they've got their order of their fire orders in the wrong way round, you're just going to stop two or three tanks from shooting Angron or what they really want to be shooting. So there's going to be some nice tactical play in how we abuse this mechanic, basically.
Yeah, that's incredibly abusive, but I love it. It's
Yeah,
that cool kind of like it's all about when you're playing a mono combat army, finding those cool little interactions that really kind of allow you to basically upskill. So yeah, really good ability. Look, in terms of the Blood Surge, I used it so much at Warhammer Fest in my Berserker spam list, and it was incredibly effective. It will remain to be incredibly effective, and yeah, I'm entirely here for it. But moving on from that, the only other thing to talk about is the Berserker icon, which now is no longer useless. So that's nice. Basically, what it
such
does.
a weird.
Let me read out the ability here. Each time you make a Blessing of Khorne roll, which is the dice roll for our army focus, if the bearer's unit is within range of an objective marker you control, you can re-roll one of the dice. Now, that is super, super strong because basically what it does is it allows you to farm for the right abilities for your army to pop off. This banner is one of the reasons why I think that world leaders are actually going to really want to go second a lot of the time. Because typically, what's going to happen, or at least what happens a lot of the time in my games, especially with Berserker Rush, is you're going to flip objectives. And those Berserkers will basically. The way I use mine is kind of like to deny my opponent primary rather than score it myself. So a lot of the time, I'll like flip an objective off my opponent in my turn by killing off a unit with Berserkers or whatever. And then those Berserkers will die in my opponent's turn. So because the Blessings of Khorne happens at the top of the battle round, if you're going second, whenever you flip all those objectives at the end of your turn, if you flipped, we'll say 3 or 4 objectives, into your side, that's 3 or 4 dice rolls that you can manipulate in the
Mhm.
Blessing of Khorne roll, which is super strong in my opinion. And if Jackals also have the same ability with their icon, let me just check what the name of the icon. It does say
Icon
Icon of
of Khorne.
Khorne. It's not a Berserker icon, right? So,
Yeah.
that could be pretty awesome. I think it's a really strong ability. So yeah, huge fan of that, and I think it really cements Berserkers into the role where I kind of think that they should be as like objective flippers, like the primary guys who will go on, take out the other battle line troops in your opponent's army, and get a nice little buff for it in return by being able to use your army faction ability better than it was before. And then the best part about it, in my opinion, is that like you have the extra blood surge added on. So when your opponent wants to challenge you for those objectives, they have to make really annoying decisions. It's extremely taxing on your opponent's brain power. So overall, the Berserker datasheet, I know it's like gone down in lethality, but the amount of jank you can do with it, the amount of play there is around it, I love it so much. Huge fan.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just briefly want to touch on, I think I mentioned at the start of the game, if you was to deploy, your 6 squads of berserkers and they're each towing your home objective, you've immediately got 6 re-rolls to your first thing, just because of the way it's worded, which again will probably be FAQ'd or clarified, but just want to put that out there in case it's not.
Look, while it's there, go crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do we have next, Jamie?
Next is Angron,
The
the
big
big man
man, the
himself.
big man.
Yeah,
This is
the
probably what most people are most excited about, right?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
So
break it down
look,
for us.
the artillery captain is dead. The artillery primarch is here. Long live the primarch. So yeah,
Is that the sound of triple predators rolling over the hillside? I think it just might be.
so look, let's just briefly go over his stats. He's moved 14, so he's gone down a little bit, but we've got a guarantee +2. Toughness 11, which is pretty big. Obviously, we need to see the full spread of strengths and toughness, but it is quite good
That
considering
puts
what
him
we
at
know about
the
Delta.
current equivalent of toughness 8.5. I think I worked out.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
one
sounds
one
about
point
right.
short of a land raider, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 up save still with a 4 up invuln, 16 wounds, which could be huge if the kind of obscuring and dense rule for 18 wounds plus remains the same. We just got to see, but that's going to be a huge break point. Leadership 5 plus, fine. Objective control 6, which is pretty nice. So his melee has kind of gone down, or definitely gone down, but it's still good. So his strike is 8 attacks, hitting on 2, strength 16, -4, d6 +2. So it's like a super melter. Then his sweep is 18 attacks, hitting on 2, strength 8, -2, damage 2. Good marine killer. Solid. Not as violent as before. Less good into hordes, just because he's less attacks and damage 2. But overall, very happy with those. He's still going to delete most things he touches in most
Yeah, if you
situations.
put any of the blessings on like sustained or lethal, and
Yeah,
then he's got his own rerolls up or
yeah,
something like that,
he's
it just gets
he's
a bit
he's
violent.
fine,
Yeah,
absolutely
he's
fine.
like okay.
The
Let's be real here. Angron was never like underkilling anything in the game
no,
currently,
right,
so I don't think
exactly.
he's going to have much of a problem currently.
So keywords wise, he's a monster. He's got fly. He's a character, epic hero, chaos corn, demon, primarch, and angron. So we'll have to see, especially what monster's going to mean right now. And epic hero is the one where he basically can't attach to squads, I think is the general
It's
consensus.
like you can only bring one of them, can't
Okay,
attach to squads as far as I know,
yeah,
and may have other rules like that we don't know about yet. People are speculating face cap, but I don't think that's true. But there is
yeah,
that speculation around there.
okay. His abilities, he has deadly demise, so he explodes.
Finally.
Yep, gotta love it. And actual deep strike, not strap
Yes.
reserves, actual deep strike, which is great. And we're going to talk about why in a moment.
Oh god, yes.
Um, he obviously gets blessings of Khorne. Reborn in blood. This is the special blessing where 666, 666, baby. He'll come back with full wounds. Full wounds. Yeah. No more, on A. He's not on a middle bracket or anything like that. He brackets at 6 wounds remaining, which is fine. And then Wrathful
It's really
Presence
good
is,
actually, because
yeah,
his bracket is only -1 to attack now. We don't get a movement reduction anymore, or less
yeah,
attacks, which is
yeah,
really good.
yeah. He's just overall better, kind of. Then Wrathful Presence at the start of your charge phase, you will select one of the abilities, and it lasts until the next charge phase. So, Glorious Bloodletting is an aura, 6-inch aura World Eaters unit. Add 1 to the charge roll. Any World Eaters unit, add 1 to the charge. At the moment, we have to assume it affects himself as well, but that may change with core rules. We don't know. Infectious Range, another 6-inch aura, World Eaters unit that is below its starting strength, i.e., a squad of 5 Berserkers have lost 1 model, or a 10 wound Rhino or whatever has lost 1 or more wounds. It is then below starting strength. You add 1 to the attacks characteristic of melee weapons for models in that unit. So that's fine. It can put Berserkers back up a little bit.
I would
I
suggest
don't
that
think,
as long as jackals can still kill themselves.
yeah. I don't know if we'll see this one as much.
No, I don't
And
think so.
then the final one, Righteous Slaughter, while a friendly World Eaters unit is within 6 of the aura again. Each time you make an attack, any attack, you can re-roll the hit roll. This is why I preempted this with the artillery primarch, because charge phase to charge phase, so it won't apply on your first turn, but all hits are re-rolled. So if Volt Tempters become a thing again, if Predators are actually good, You know I'm gonna have to do it at some point, Dara. You know I'm
It's
gonna have to
only
run the
fair. It's
gun
only
line.
fair. You'd lose all credibility if you didn't.
But yeah,
I mean, a
so
triple Land Raider gun fortress build could be a vibe, right?
yeah, I
Yeah,
mean
yeah.
it legit could be like Berserker spam, 3 Land Raiders and Angron. That's pretty dope.
If
I
it
love it.
works. Yeah, if it works.
But yeah, like
Pretty crazy though.
overall, like this guy's just gone beast mode. Like we thought he was powerful before. Um, if he is obscurable, that's massive. He's already good if he's
He
not.
appears to be because he does not have the towering keyword, so he does
Yes.
appear to be whatever this game's version of obscurable is. He will
Mhm.
benefit from that.
It
How
does
that plays
seem
out,
very
we don't
likely.
exactly know yet because the train rules aren't exactly clear. But based on what we've seen, it implies that Angron will be able to squat behind buildings and jump out, which is part of what I think is one of the most powerful things you can do.
Oh
And
yeah. Well, we'll talk about
we'll
that.
get
I
to
think
that
we'll
then.
save that for the end of the video for our
Sure,
silly little
sure.
commentary on that. But overall, like he's just overall better. Maybe not quite as killy, which is I'm okay with because he's still killy.
I think it just
But
depends, though, right? Like if he's going into, we'll say, Marines now, he's probably more killy because of the flat damage two and the sweep, which is
yes,
pretty big.
yeah,
I think a lot of the times the flat damage two and the sweep actually is just gonna push him, like, because you're gonna have so much more attacks. Like if I was sending him into like elf transports or stuff like that, I'm just gonna do the sweep every day, just smash through
yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I just think overall it's a clear buff. We know there's going to be some really good benefits he can get from the blessings. There'll be probably a couple stratagems that help him out as well. We obviously don't know anything much about those at the moment. But yeah,
And
overall,
the
like I
detachment
love it.
ability will presumably do something for him as well. And
Yes. Yeah.
like coming back on full wounds, super powerful. I think. I also think the +1 charge aura coming off from him is like crazy, crazy good. Especially
Yeah.
if you've got like things in deep strike, like potentially termite drills or terminators coming in or anything
Yeah.
like that. Like the fact that there's a world in which Angron can potentially hide behind a building at the start of the game, jump out, move 22 with a 6-inch advance, and still be able to charge after that, and then also give off an aura of everyone around him +1 to charge, while they're also potentially advancing and charging, is like crazy powerful, in my
Hmm.
opinion. Like, our army went from already quite fast to potentially being even faster.
Yeah.
It's so interesting to me that like I feel like Angron went from like having like a lot of interesting play to having tons of technical play. Like,
Mm.
it's been a meme, but he really is going to become the thinking man's Primarch.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
genuinely
for sure.
agree. Yeah, I just overall like 10 out of 10 for this one, or 8 out of 8. Let's put it like that.
I also like low key think that middle ability, for like popping off extra attacks on guys around him that are below starting strength. If you can imagine him coming back into the game, or just being in the game later in the like turn 4, turn 5, where you're like, I really need to get maximum mileage out of my units.
Yeah,
Dropping him in where there's like a bunch of wounded berserkers or jackals or something like that, or maybe you've got like 8 bound or dreadnoughts or anything like that, and just being like, cool, everyone here has an extra attack. Like
yes,
that could be extremely potent, in my
yeah,
opinion.
yeah. There's definitely going to be some cool like narrative moments with that as well. Like Angron just down on the table, all the boys are like, "Fuck it, let's go." You pop that, and it's like, yeah,
Yep.
I just
Yep.
love it. All right, so that's Angron. Did you want to talk about the demon gore cannon?
Not really, no.
No. Okay. Why don't you talk to us about the stratagem, blood offering?
Sure. So Blood Offering is 1 CP when is any phase. Target one World Eater's unit from your army that was just destroyed while within range of an objective marker that you controlled. You can use the stratagem on that unit even though it was just destroyed. And the effect is the objective marker remains under your control even if you have no models within range of it until your opponent controls it at the start or end of any turn. 1 CP. Going back to everything I was saying about Berserkers, this just makes them even better. It's crazy good. Crazy, crazy good.
Yeah. There's a lot. I think a lot of strategic and tactical play that's going to come up with this. I can see it being game winning, quite frankly, in
Yes. Yep.
round 4 and 5 end of the game when you're sort of tidying up things.
Where
Your
it really
opponent
shines, I think, is like, the gun line fight that we just hate to have, where you'll like flip those objectives, like I'm saying, and then
yeah,
they'll just like pop, 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 pick you off those objectives one by one or whatever. This way, you're ensuring that, provided that they're not coming out to meet you, you're keeping one of those objectives locked in your
yeah,
control, which is just incredible. The way primary is functioning, seemingly similar to how it did before. Like, oh man, that like you say, it could be game winning.
yes,
Obviously, it's a less powerful if you're playing against armies like Blood Angels or other armies that are just going to be up in your grill and mincing you.
hmm
But yeah, like, wow, really, really cool in my opinion.
yeah. I just think it's a good, and I'm so glad. I'm sure the rest of our unique strats will be more like the typical World Eater stuff, but I'm glad they've highlighted something that isn't his +1 AP, his +1 to charge or whatever. Like those things are always nice, but I'm glad they thought outside the unga bunga World Eaters meme. Right?
Yep.
It's nice
Yeah.
that they're like, okay, what would it actually be like if the World Eaters are on the battlefield, they capture this strategic location, and the Blood God is happy? He would actually, yeah, all right, you Berserkers, you did a good job. You're dead. I don't care about that, but that thing is now a shrine to me.
Yeah,
And
it's
then
good. You can imagine them like planting the icon or something in the objective.
yes,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm glad that GW has thought about that. It bodes well for the rules that we haven't seen yet. That there's people that understand the bigger picture rather than just charge and fight based stuff. To me,
Completely agree. Yeah, as like the overall like view into the army design that we're getting a look at here, there's an awful lot of that manipulation of movement, manipulation of objective control. Things being. There's an awful lot of emphasis of like playing around the objectives for the world leaders, which I'm a huge fan. Huge fan.
absolutely. Okay, well that really wraps up. Yeah, like we ran over the Demon Gore cannon just because we don't know enough context for it.
Yeah, it's out of
Like
context. It's
yeah,
just a gun.
it's a
It's
good
kind of like
weapon.
whatever.
Great,
Yeah.
whatever. So that kind of wraps up the highlights of the article. But let's briefly talk about what our kind of initial thoughts on the shenanigans and jank that we're not supposed to have. Dara, you had a pretty massive brain moment about an hour or two ago. Why don't you regale us with
Yeah,
that?
so I can't claim credit to this one. It was my buddy Mike, my regular one of my regular Blood Angels and Thousand Sons opponent, who suggested this move. And as we were discussing it in our group chat, it was like a domino effect. We were like, "Oh my god, this is crazy, crazy powerful." So there is supposedly a generic stratagem which was previewed a long few weeks ago, maybe even a month ago at this point, when they were previewing the new Terminators, called Rapid Ingress, which is basically allows you to set up a unit in Deep Strike at the end of your opponent's movement phase. Basically, you can Deep Strike one of your units in during your opponent's turn, which is a kind of a strange stratagem until you think about the fact that Angron doesn't have towering and can Deep Strike. So what you can do is, depending on the board layout, which good tournaments will have nice big runes and stuff that you can hide behind. And if you're playing against someone who doesn't necessarily have a whole bunch of charging or whatever, or is a scary gun line, what you can do is at the end of your opponent's movement phase in turn 2, just plop Angron down behind a mid-board rune where you think he's going to be pretty safe. And your opponent can't really do anything about it because he's already made his moves. So maybe he's got a couple of lines of sight on some guns that he can fire at Angron, but he might not be able to kill him. Or at most, he's going to be making 9-inch charges into him. And then your turn rolls around and you'll just be able to move Angron potentially 16 inches, maybe more with an advance and charge. And that to me just feels absolutely filthy. Like, so powerful. Like, given
It's
everything we've
lovely.
already talked about Angron, like, that combination of rules just feels oppressive, to
Yeah,
be honest.
yeah, it's ludicrous. Like yeah, I just love it. And there's going to be every army is probably going to have something that abuses that stratagem.
Yep.
But for us, it's like it's everything we've always wanted. It's like Angron can now deep strike, but we can deep strike into a safe space. Even if there's not like a large L to use, we can like pre-measure, okay, so your Tau tank there only has a 24-inch range or what have you. So I'm going to put him here, 24.1 inches away from the only thing in your army that could kill him. So
Can I just pitch the scene, right? You know the way like
do
we're all
it.
big fans of psyops and like
Oh
bullshit
yeah,
mind games and stuff here, right? So your Tau opponent, using the poor Tau player as our continued example,
of
has
course.
finished their movement phase, and you're looking at the board state, and they say, "I'm about to start my shooting phase," and you hold up a hand and you say, not yet," and you spend maybe you put yourself back in the clock. Maybe you go for a shit because like that's what you do in these scenarios as well.
Yes.
And you come back and you're like, I've decided what I'm going to do, and you offer them a beer as well because you're like, I'm about to do something that's really going to hurt you, you know. And you walk around the table a little bit and you look, you know, you're getting down, checking the line of sight, and this time you're actually checking line of sight, not doing the bullshit thing that I do where you don't actually look for anything. And you work out, oh hey, there's a spot here where maybe only one or two of your units can draw line of sight. Cool, boom, Angron, and you just watch them just you know, that is the level of play that I'm so excited to do because that
Yes.
is absolutely foul in my opinion. Like
Yeah.
so crazy good. The fact that he can jump out then and has such a massive threat range is just it's crazy to me, you know? Like it's so that as well. That's a game state changing move, I
Yes.
think. And we've only seen a preview. Like this is only the surface level thoughts that are coming to us. You know, I
Hmm.
just think it's fantastic.
Yeah, there's going to be so much good stuff that we can do with that kind of ability. Like, as we don't know detachment rules yet, um, and one thing I'm curious about is something that I've been playing with my current world eaters is really maximizing the no fallback, whether from Angron or Exalted Eight Bound or what have you. If we have a way to get no fallback, being able to stick Angron exactly where we want him, it won't be game changing, it'll be game winning. Like with his threat range with fly, it doesn't really matter where you're going to put him as long as he's going to survive whatever shooting and charges that will come at him. He will then be able to move and charge to a place that will delete a key unit and then tie up a key unit. And considering the rest of your army should be doing some work as well, I think whilst you're on the lower and mid tables, it will be a game winning move. It'll be a checkmate. Once you get onto the higher tables, obviously people are going to learn this, and there'll be ways of screening it out, and we get that. But that will get you up into the higher tables and open up the path of opportunity for podiums and event wins, I think.
But it's
But
also
yeah,
it's just like a brain taxing move that even at those higher tables, your
yeah,
opponent will only be able to screen it out so much. And at the
yeah,
end of the day, he'll still come down and then still have a minimum 16-inch move
yeah,
in your turn from which he can then charge. It'll be, I would say, like almost impossible to fully zone that out, you know?
yeah.
It's super powerful. And then you consider the fact that you can have demon allies put in there as well, who all have native deep strike built in. Yeah, look, it's just wild in my
Yeah.
opinion, and we're only scratching the surface here.
Yeah. Um, yeah, absolutely. I think that's the key is that we're scratching the surface. Like we didn't get a detachment rules preview, so we don't know exactly how they're gonna specify that, but that is another layer of some kind of buff. I know we all kind of expect it to be +1 attack on the charge, but I think you spoke to someone about that, didn't
Yeah,
you?
when I was like playing 10th at Warhammer Fest, they were very clear that they're removing like the plus attacks abilities, basically.
Okay.
Might be +1 to hit on the charge, something like that.
Yeah,
I don't know. But like they were super clear of like we don't want to have rules where you're just adding attacks onto your profile the whole time.
yeah. Yeah, like +1 to hit would be effectively the same as +1 attack just because of the like
Yeah, it's just
statistically.
different. Same
Yeah.
rule but different. Yeah.
Yeah, and they could also increase our AP on the charge, which would be good, but not quite as good, just because you could hit invols a bit more often. There's a lot of things they could do, like they could make no fallback, one of the detachment rules.
That would
Could
be
you
wild.
imagine the disciples detachment, as and when we get that, being enemies just can't fall back? That could be pretty nice.
Yeah, there's any kind of thing like that. Like I'm just very excited that they've gone in a really interesting direction with some of the rules so
Yes.
far. It gives me a lot of hope for the stratagems, for the enhancements, for the detachment rules, all that kind of interesting things. Yeah, super excited
Yeah,
about what we're seeing here.
there is a lot we can kind of hope for based on this. Like the feel no pain mention, it does imply very strongly that there's going to be another source of feel no pain, whether that is the butcher surgeon, whether it's a stratagem, a detachment rule, we don't know. there's a lot more things that are going to be added on top here, and like I am genuinely hyped. There are changes to our current rules, berserkers especially, Angron to a smaller extent, that maybe our side grades or slight downgrades, but I think there is enough compensation presented in just this article that it's going to balance out even without anything else, which we know we're going to get. We know we're getting detachment rules and enhancements and several more stratagems. Like with what we've seen from this article and that Terminator article, we've already got a hugely powerful play. What the hell are we going to have when we have our full index here? Like, it's
Anything could
crazy,
happen.
man.
Imagine with a codex, right, where we have multiple attachments or something. It's gonna be crazy.
Yeah,
I'm super hyped though. Like it's got another reason to get me super hyped for 10th edition. I think.
yeah, yeah. I don't know, man. I'm super super happy. I hope everyone who's watching has either been already hyped up or is now hyped up because of our hype. Like,
For sure.
the butcher's nails are screeching in my head, man. I've got an RTT tomorrow, and you know I'm going to enjoy it and stuff. But man, I really want to play 10th Ed now.
I know, right? Yeah,
I
it's
just want to
super.
get into it.
Yeah, it's hopefully not too long away, but
Yeah, right.
yeah, can't wait for it. It's gonna be really exciting. I'm just glad that enough of our kind of iconic playstyle from our current codex is sort of transferring over into
Mm,
this as well. It's like I feel like they kept a lot of the things that I like,
yeah.
Gonna be super excited to see about Juggerlords and Mikadis and all that kind of good stuff. But
Mhm.
hey, that's all coming down the road. At least now we can start speculating and planning, right?
Exactly. Okay, well, I think that really wraps it up for this one. Thank you everyone for watching and following along. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Uh, Come and join the Discord, of course. Uh, Follow us on Instagram and Patreon and whatever the hell you want to do. I don't know. We don't care. Just come to the Discord and talk World Eaters with us. That's what we want. Yeah, you want to walk us out, man?
Yeah, I mean, as Jamie says, thank you so much for hanging out. Do all the usual stuff that you're supposed to do to, make our video popular. We appreciate it all. And yeah, hang out in the Discord. We're going to be vibing and thinking of new ideas the whole time from now until 10th edition and throughout. So, till the next one, folks, stay healthy, stay safe, and kill, maim, burn.